All right, I'm Jinny from WMedia. So we have one of the richest talents in India. You can see what the latest trends is, what's their advice and strategies that in terms of expanding facilities in Southeast Asia and of course Northeast Asia. Welcome. This is Sridhar Pinnapureddy on Control S. Is that right? Control S. And this is the largest rated for a data center operator and, a big name in India. We have another big name, right? Yes. Sunil Gupta, CEO of Yoda. And Yoda is a major data center and operator, has a technological park in India as well. Welcome to a mini show, gentlemen. Yes. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Sridhar. So, what's driving the global hyperscale revolution?
Of course, every one of you aware what is driving the hyperscale growth. Fundamentally, the cloud where all enterprise workloads are coming into the data centers on one side and the other side. I would call it, to sum up all, is the smartphone usage, which is driving the entire all the new spectrum of applications and the digital world that we live in. Another important trend which is driving is the hyperscale evolution is the AI workloads. Now, we've been talking for many years now. Right now, it is the reality. We are seeing the workloads move into the commercial data centers as we speak, and we expect this to almost add like a big fuel to the already raging fire. Probably very difficult to estimate, but probably it could double up the speed at which the data center industry is growing.
Double the speed.
Absolutely.
And India is one of the 1.3 billion populated
1.4 now.
1.4.
India became the biggest country in the world.
Yes, thanks for the correction. But we have these buzzwords these days. There's 5G, 6G, automation, artificial intelligence. Is that ringing a buzz for you? What's the global trend? How do you read between the lines of these in industrial strategy?
It depends on which industry that we are working from. The one that I'm working from at Controllers, definitely I see a lot of tailwinds. I see a lot of positive buzz, and we are fortunate to be in the industry at the right time. We see ourselves doubling. Okay, I'll give you a historic perspective. It took us 10 years to sell 10 megawatt. Last 4 years, from 10, we crossed 100. This year, we are adding capacity which takes us to 240 megawatt powered shell. And we thought we acquired powered lands for the next 10 years. But that is about 1.1 gigawatt worth of lands that we acquired. We don't see it being enough to feed our customers, the growth plans. So we are looking for more. So, sorry, go ahead.
What about you? What's your thoughts? Do you have anything to add on?
No, absolutely. I just concur. I think anybody in India will just concur with what Sridhar is saying, that it is the fundamental tailwind in India is the demographic dividend, that you have not only the population, which used to be the biggest liability for India, has suddenly become the biggest asset for India. There's a population which is English speaking, which is literate, which has got mobile phones in the hands of every single citizen. And these mobile phones, almost like out of the 750 million Indian users who are having mobile phones, 500 million will actually be having 5G enabled smartphones. So you can just understand, if you have got digitally literate people having a very, very cost effective data plan in their hand, with mobile in their hand, what type of content creation they'll be doing, what type of content consumption they'll be doing. And that is the fundamental tailwind. And 52% of Indian population actually is in the working class compared to 48% which is dependents like children and this thing. And that is what we call as the Indian demographic dividend, which is actually propelling this whole growth, in the terms of data consumptions, in the cloud consumptions, or AI consumption, or what or what not. It's
So
just that.
how does your rich experience from India applies to all the industry experts here who are keen to grow and expand in Southeast Asia? What's your implication? What's the lessons learned that could apply to Southeast Asia? I know you guys are trying to expand overseas as well.
I can possibly take that, and this is the process we are in, that while we are taking our steps to meet the demands in India, and that will take us a couple of years to literally bridge that supply-demand gap in India, because India itself is growing. But when we are going out, for example, we announced our plan in Bangladesh and we are starting, our construction is on there, and now I was here and I was just trying to look out for which countries in Southeast Asia I should start my operations in, because everywhere there's so much of demand. What I could clearly see may not be applicable to all the countries, but in some of the countries I could see that those countries possibly are where India was 10 years back, right? You have clear tailwinds and signals of eyeballs being there on mobiles consuming content, but not enough capacity to serve that demand. That is one point. So how do we build more and more, factor the greening part alongside? That's what we are doing in India, that we are trying to cover two technologies at the same time. Not only we are building, but we are building learning from the mistakes of others. We're actually building green right at the same time. How do you actually make it efficient, that while you have the scalability part, the large campuses thought right from day one, and you factor power and fiber right from day one, but at the same time you don't make a mistake of putting too much capital too soon? Because this type of demand, which is AI enabled, where many of the use cases possibly will be coming in times to come, you should not end up just burning yourself, putting too much of a capex and later realizing maybe this demand was not too much to come. Today, we are in an event talking to everybody, and suddenly we are feeling too much of a frenzy of building. So how you actually make your designs very, very scalable, so that if demand comes, you are able to scale very, very fast, but at the same time, make it very modular, that your investments are as per the demand of the time, and if it remains static, you remain there, but if it grows, you should be able to scale up very, very fast. I think this message will apply to all the markets out here.
Other than the matrix and the capacity, which all participants here are fond of, I'm going to give you a hard question. So the geopolitical tensions in Asia is palpable. U.S. Western states are putting sanctions in hardware and IT and advanced technology in China. So do you think this is an opportunity or impediment to industry players like you for Southeast Asia to grow? Is it a windfall beneficiary, or is it going to just drain the tech hole down the drain? What's your strategy? I know you're not an expert in geopolitics, but I want to know what you're thinking about all these sanctions and regulatory.
No, I mean, the recent geopolitics is definitely a disruption, and disruption of some of the existing business models. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, I see opportunities to create new capacities, opportunities to, how do I say it, as for new undersea cables, opportunities to, for different countries to establish, self-reliance, what it means to the cloud data center industry. Obviously, the whole data looks like it's going to be divided. There are going to be literally the Chinese walls across, on both sides of the spectrum. It looks like the world is going in that direction.
Different meaning to Chinese wall. Okay.
Yeah, with a different meaning. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
How about you? How do you see this?
I see two aspects of this, from a geopolitical point of view. First is India builds and delivers for itself, meeting its own demand, and then India focuses on building and delivering for the demand of the rest of the world, right? Because this China angle of that, if China suddenly stops becoming the default manufacturing location, and what you are hinting at is that should India become and take up that space, start serving that demand for India. In services space, India has been doing for years, but from manufacturing you are talking about. I think much before this new geopolitical angles coming in the last couple of years, the current government in India actually started talking about something called Make in India, right? It was so funny that for a country with 1.44 billion population, we were dependent on for so many of our products on other countries, and we were importing while we have every single wherewithal.
So it's going to attack the
be
whole
doing in
global
India.
supply
So today
chain.
what you see in India, not only in fact the aspect of data centers, high quality data centers being built in India and green project being in India, like we are among the largest producers of green power in India, is actually not for the purpose of serving the world or becoming an alternative to China. It is actually for serving our own needs. And same thing you see that India now is talking about manufacturing chips. We were importing chips. We know the geopolitical situations. We know the situation of Taiwan, what type of fights are going on just to retain the control of Taiwan. So what we are talking about is India for becoming a self-independent, which is consuming millions and millions of mobile phones which depend on chips, and of course the AI servers will depend on chips. First, India need to manufacture for its own needs. That itself will take India many years. And of course, during that process, we can also become the manufacturing hub, alternate to China for the rest of the world as well.
So I'm going to shift gears. We're running out of time, but I have to ask this. So I've been talking about sustainable practices in my earlier speech this morning, and I see some nodding heads. So do you think managing carbon footprint, is it holding you back, or are you grabbing the opportunity with new tech? How do you see this? Are there any regulatory refinements that you're keen on changing?
No, so far there are no regulatory, forced
soon it will be,
carbon.
yes.
There will be, yes. I see them coming. If the industry doesn't proactively do it, it's the regulator who has to step in.
So how are
and
you
do it.
preparing for it?
Oh, it's a big part of us. As an entrepreneur, I see it as an opportunity. So we built a green energy division with a goal of going 100% carbon neutral. In the next 4 to 5 months, 50% of our energy will come from our own solar farms. So we're building own solar farms. But our ultimate goal in the next 6-7 years to go 100% net, carbon neutral. We aim to achieve that by building some storage projects and various R&D currently are, in the works.
So you're going for the 2030
100%.
100%.
50% in next 5 months.
That's very admirable. And how about you? I'm going to wrap it up with your
I'll just do it very quickly. But fundamentally, I think there are, again, two aspects to this. That India is one of the, I would say, country which is lucky. In every other part of the world, wherever I have gone into this debate, that there's a balance between the need to go green versus commercially being viable, because green energy happens to be costlier than the brown energy in Singapore or any part of the world. In India, it is like double whammy. You not only becoming green, but also by becoming green on an overall basis, you are reducing your cost of energy by 15 to 20%. And while there are some regulatory challenges always...
How many years will it take to reduce it? Because you need investments to go green.
So I think the good part, and this is what I spoke in my speech also, is that because India started rising this data center cover little late compared to the evolved market, so we learned from the problem which other face like Singapore. So right on day one, like Sridhar was talking about, that when we are building and scaling our data center, we are taking greening of our data center right from day one, whether it is cooling practices and taking water chillers and doing adiabatic coolings and things like that, or whether it is right from day one how much maximization of green we can do. And the good part, again, I would keep on repeating this, is that I think even our regulators, either at a state level or at a central level, also are learning it very, very fast. They can understand the Indian digital economy depends too much on data centers. So we got so much of state government and central government policies which are actually promoting that how you can use solar power more, how you can use wind power more. If you're a consumer of 1 megawatt plus, which any data center would be, you can have your private purchase agreement with any green power producer in India, and you can actually start drawing the power. So it's so easy. I would say challenges will always remain. We are a developing country, so we'll always have some factors of challenges here and there. But overall, if you know how to do business in India, right, which hopefully we are, opportunities are plenty of scaling it up big time and also scaling it up responsibly with green power.
So you heard it from these two gentlemen. They are going green, 100%. So you can reach out to them for collaboration. I got their word on record, guys. Thank you so much for being awesome panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening us. Thank you. Bye.